To make your painted paper for your portrait project, you'll need a piece of paper, a pencil to write your name, cups with paint in them, a paper plate for mixing colors, a messy mat to put under your painting, a water cup, and a paintbrush. First, start by writing your name on the back of your paper. Make sure that you also write your room number and the letter of your art group with your name. When you're choosing colors for your painting, think about colors that blend nicely together. So I have purple, blue, and pink, and a little bit of red. Thinking about analogous colors when I choose my colors. Analogous are colors that sit next to each other on the color wheel. So like purple, blue, and pink and red are right next to each other on the color wheel. If I chose something like purple and yellow and I tried to blend those together, I would get more of a neutral color like a gray or a brown, and that might not be the look that you're going for. So think about analogous colors or colors that are next to each other on the color wheel when you're choosing your colors. When you're using these paints in the cups, make sure you put the lid somewhere safe so that you can put it back on when you are finished. And then I can start painting. For your paintbrushes, the red brushes that are a flat edge are nice for putting a lot of color on your paper. The green brushes are called a round brush, and they're good for smaller areas. If you'd like to add texture to your painting, you'll need a plastic fork, which we will carve into our paint once we have applied it to our paper. So these paints, they are liquid tempera paints, so we don't need to add a lot of water to them to make them work. We do need our water to rinse our brushes when we are using a new color. So I'm putting the neon red on my paper, and I'm just kind of going back and forth in one direction using a vertical up and down brush stroke. I find that it's easier if you use one direction with your paintbrush when you're doing this. And I'm going to blend another color into it. Now I want to use the pink, so I'm going to rinse off my brush and make sure I get all of the red off of my brush before I dip into that cup. So I can see that I still have some red on my brush. You can test it on your messy mat to make sure that your brush is clean. With tempera paint, you really have to clean off your brush more than you would with a watercolor. So rinse it around in your water cup for a little while. Now I'm going to put the pink near the red and kind of blend them together. I'm trying to get a lot of color on my paper quickly. I'm going to use my fork later to add some texture, but I don't want my paint to dry before I do that because it would be hard to move the fork around on dry paint. Now I want to blend in a little purple to this, so I need to rinse off my brush, make sure I get all of the pink off of it first. Then I can layer the purple on top. If you want to mix colors, you can do that on a paper plate. Let's say I want to make a purplish pink. I could take a little bit of purple on my plate from the cup, and then I'm going to rinse off my brush to get the purple off. And then I'm going to take a little bit of pink and I'm going to blend those together on my plate. That way I'm mixing on my paper plate and not in the colors that are in the cups. We want to keep those paints nice and clean for other people to use. So now I've made a new color that I can apply to my painting. I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest of my paper with paint and blend these colors together. Like to add texture, then you can use your fork to scrape the paint. So I'm creating kind of a squiggly line here with my fork, going back and forth to carve through the paint. Make sure that you're adding texture with your fork while your painting is still wet. If your paint has dried, then it's going to be hard to put the texture on the paint because the fork can't really carve into dried paint. When you're finished, you can take your painting supplies to the sink and put your brushes and the fork in the dirty brush cup, and then you can take your painting with the messy mat underneath it to the drying rack. Make sure that you put the lids back on the paints that you used and secure them so that our paints do not dry out. I hope you had fun creating painted paper. I can't wait to see how yours turns out.